Thanks for listening to the Replatform podcast, sponsored by Traction Hypersonics and hosted by me, James Gerd, and my co-host, Paul Rogers. And a warm welcome if it's your first time, and thanks to our regular listeners. That we put a lot of effort into creating this content and bringing it to you completely free of charge. Help us keep it that way. Share the episode, post it on the social media profiles, tell other people in your network about it who you think might be interested. Please help us get as many listeners as possible. And also, we'd love a rating on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen or watch. It helps boost visibility. It helps bring new people to the podcast. So thanks, and we hope you enjoyed the latest episode. So let me quickly set it up for introducing our guests. Our topic today is on FrontCommerce's PWA front end for e-commerce, looking like market fit. The reason for this is like businesses are grappling with the relevance and impact of evolving technology stacks to deliver greater flexibility, faster speed to market, get a bit of efficiency rather than waiting on, standard long deployment times you get on legacy systems. Headless and composable dominate marketing speak. They're everywhere. There's a lot of interesting and positive speak about it. There's also a lot of information out there which kind of clouds matter. So what we're trying to do is have episodes that help you better understand where different technology fits in the type of business it's suitable for. Because with great flexibility comes great responsibility. And going fully headless, fully composable doesn't suit every business. And you sometimes need to change your business model in order to suit those technologies. So today we've got a really, really interesting guest. And we're speaking to a front-end specialist. What we're going to cover is what is FrontCommerce's front-end solution for e-commerce? What type of business does headless front-end suit and why? Going into some of the product features, roadmap and integrations. So first, a warm welcome to Christian, who's the Strategic Partnerships Development Manager. Hi, Christian. How are you?
Hi, James. I'm doing great. Thanks. Thanks for the invitation. I'm in charge of partnership here at FrontCommerce. So my role is to help the agencies with whom we work to deliver the best possible front ends for their e-com customers. And I'm here with Pierre, our CTO and co-founder.
Yeah. Hi, nice to meet you. So I'm Pierre, in charge of everything technical regarding all this tech aspects. So the whole tech stack about our FrontCommerce product and our cloud also deployment platform, and also of course of the product. So I could answer some of the questions about the roadmap and how it fits also for our existing customers and things like that.
Right, and I'll ask the first question then. So Christian, the first question is to you. Can we just start by talking about your kind of market positioning, and if you can just summarize kind of what FrontCommerce is, I guess, and the kind of scope that it typically fills for an e-commerce project?
Yeah, sure, with pleasure. So we're a software editor of a front end as a service, which is a solution dedicated for e-com, B2B and B2C. What we do is we provide foundations to build agnostic front end, so agnostic from the back end e-com engine, and you can plug it into any e-com stack on the market, allowing to benefit like a modern and innovative offering to craft your online customer experience. So it's really kind of a new market, a very innovative offering. And what makes us unique right now in this market of a front end as a service, mainly 3 points. First, we will guarantee that all the backend features that are exposed in API are connected with our solution, even if this means ensuring updates of our solution when the backend is being updated by its provider. The second point is our teams will support our partner developers when it comes to web performance, best practices, and code review regarding the front end. So really what is linked to web performance to ensure that our React and GraphQL developments are done in order to achieve the best possible results. So this means we're also going to provide support, to the developers of our partners that are putting in place our solution. And we will review even the code that has been overlaid on our solution to ensure that we respect these best practices regarding web performance and the languages that we use, mainly React. the third part is that we will guarantee that our customers are able to change their backends whenever they want to, when the time is right. And this is a subject we're going to go through a bit later on, dig into, is what we call progressive migration. In a nutshell, it means that e-merchant can change his front end with our solution without touching the back end and go on the path of composable commerce. And at the end of the journey, he can change his back end without too much impact on the front end, because we are agnostic of the back end solution. I think we'll come back to that. So our solution allows brands to go for composable commerce much faster than if they had to change all their econ stack. We just cut the head of the platform, the website, allowing them to go headless in 3 to 5 months. And headless is really the first step to composable commerce.
Attract, your complete product discovery growth engine. Create relevant shopping experiences that convert into sales and grow online revenue with personalized search, merchandising, and recommendation solutions powered by AI. Find out more at attract.com.
Great. And I guess following on from that, so sticking with you, Christian. So as James alluded to, I think headless and composable nowadays is quite a broad area, fairly vague. There's lots of approaches. A lot of the kind of vendors involved have different scopes, and it sounds like your scope is quite broad overall. So can you just talk us through what a typical tech stack looks like when you're using front commerce? So what other kind of solutions are involved, be that CMS, obviously an e-com platform, any other kind of vendors that would be involved?
Oh, sure. We're going to be kind of in the middle of all these solutions that allow to provide the best possible hyper-personalized service to the online customer. So indeed, we are agnostic. We can potentially be plugged on any best-of-breed tech solution out there, or tech stack, which are streets. Nevertheless, we are witnessing right now demand on customers that have acquired Adobe Commerce, SFCC, or SAP Hybris. These customers are lacking flexibility and agility when it comes to connecting new channels to their econ stack. And when you know that the headless approach will increase your time to market by an average of 80%, there's no wonder these brands are digging into the subject right now. So apart from these ecom engine stacks, we connect indeed with major CMSs such as Contentful or Prismic, or search services such as Algolia, B2B solutions such as Ecommerce, for example. And we also support several payment providers, obviously, like Adyen, Stripe, PayPal. There's so many out there. We believe that the most mature solution when it comes to going headless, in the past years, we've seen a lot of demand on Magento and Adobe customers. And as I mentioned, right now, we're seeing an increase in demand on these, what we call monolith solutions that are well known, such as SFCC or SAP Hybris.
And I know you, Christian, you touched on the front end being a bit of React. Pierre, could you talk us through in a bit more depth? What is the tech stack that the front sits on? And I guess the question most people are going to be interested in is why have you built this way? What are the benefits to the merchant of having this tab in terms of like performance, speed, etc.?
As Christian mentioned, basically we're the head of headless commerce, and we've built a platform for front-end developers to build a front-end. That's the only entry point into this composable commerce, best-of-breed solutions. So naturally, we chose the JavaScript ecosystem for that because that was what front-end developers knew more about. And we felt it was more natural. So we went with React as our front-end library for building component-based UIs, and front commerce is a React single-page application that's also server-side rendered. So for that, we have a Node.js server, and all the data goes through a unified GraphQL server, which basically will be composed of every different solutions in the backend, and will have a unified access to the data for a standard e-commerce application. That means that a front commerce application is a JavaScript application with front commerce as a dependency. More on that later, but we're currently in the process of delivering a new version of front commerce based on Remix, the Remix JavaScript framework. So basically, this is a standard application, and front commerce is a dependency. Then you register front commerce extensions in your application based on the services that you want. So, for instance, if you have an Adobe Commerce B2B backend that you want to expose and use as a headless application, you will enable our Adobe Commerce B2B extension that we maintain and we provide over time. Then you will mix with the Algolia search extension or the Prismic extension, and then you have a front end that is able to display on the same page data from Adobe, Algolia, and Prismic. And all of that really seamlessly for the front end developers, because they're creating React components, interacting a single graph of all this data, no matter where the data comes through. That's how we can also do replatforming in the future. So we do have all those extensions also for agent payment, for instance, if you use that, Google Analytics for tracking, and you have a fully application that you can start customizing. As I mentioned, we do provide React components, and even more than that, when you start front commerce project, you have a fully working theme, an e-commerce theme that is based on the atomic design principle. So from all of that, you start from a starting point and you start customizing depending on your custom features.
Excellent. That's actually the point you made about the connectors. We've got right at the end of our roadmap and where you're headed. We'll come back to that because that's quite an interesting thing. So a lot of the merchants I work with, the thing they're most keen about when they're looking to re-platform is, they have 2 or 3 solutions they don't want to change. And I know native connectors aren't the be all and end all, but they do help people kind of feel a bit more reassured. But so, Christian, coming back to you actually, and we talked about this before we started the recording, in the SME space specifically, not an enterprise, like the prospect of like headless and composable just scares people off because it sounds impossible. But headless as well can be off-putting because people think it's just too much technical complexity, escalating costs, like they can't do it if they don't have a big engineering team. So I'd love you, can you explain to people like what size type of business fits best with your solution? Is it about revenue size? Is it about technical in-house capability?
Well, yeah, sure. Well, we have like 3 verticals right now: retail, luxury brands, and B2B. Generally, the starting point for what we call our ICP, ideal customer project, would be around 5 million online GMV. What we're looking at is brands that actually already have an e-com business, but we also have exceptions because we also see industries in B2B that are just launching their e-com strategy with a lot of investment and high goals to achieve online. So they want to have the best possible e-com stack from the beginning, and they're not yet doing anything online. But the majority of our customers generally have a GMV online around 5 million. And this meaning that they want to go like an extra step when it comes to flexibility for their business teams in order to test and learn for their online customer experiences. We're kind of in a world right now where we have to adapt quickly and surprise online customers with exceptional emotions, good vibes, in order to not frustrate them. And this is what we're going to be able to achieve with a solution that is dedicated to web performance and a faster time to market in order to test and learn business ideas, I would say. So no specific ready sector. I would say more GMV minimum online right now, because, and we might come back to this later, we have an economic model where we invoice a license to the final customer, and he has the help, of course, of his agency. 95% of our customers have an agency, a partner with whom they work, that actually builds the front end with the customer and will maintain it over time and maybe bring best of breed breaks in this composable approach. As you mentioned, the first step for composable, that can be a bit scary, is the headless approach, separating the front from the back in order to separate everything, actually, because we can separate the teams that are working on both subjects. We can separate the timeline of the projects. We can separate the IT language between the two subjects, back and front, because everything is linked in APIs. So indeed, composable isn't for everybody out there. Nevertheless, we're actually working on different features that will be able to retrieve complexity on the subject of composable. One of the examples is the fact of having multiple providers for your e-com stack might bring complexity in analyzing if one of them isn't respecting his SLA, for example. As we're in the middle of all this, because we take all the information from the back end, we take all the entry points, we have features that will able to monitor actually each solution that is in the back end to understand if one is not working as it should be. So yeah, we're moving forward on this path to ensure the final customers that they will have a solution that will not bring more doubts or fear in order to adopt this best of breed composable approach for their e-com stack. We might also add in that the fact that brands that come to us, also brands that are willing to have multiple websites, multiple front ends, with only one back-end solution. So it's kind of a machine to build multiple front ends. And also for companies that are in B2B, we have an example. We just signed one recent customer that's doing around 200 million online, and he has a multi-market distribution model. So yeah, we can be a good choice in that kind of configuration also, when you're really global and you have maybe dedicated front ends per country, for example.
Hypersonics helps e-commerce companies make more profit every day. This AI-driven platform delivers recommendations for pricing and inventory that lead to bigger profits. Visit hypersonics.ai/podcast to get a free trial.
And one thing I was just going to comment on as well. So in the background, while you were talking, I was just looking at your website, and I noticed you work with DVLA, which is a brand that I worked with years ago when I was at GPMD. And I was just going to call it out. That's a really nice implementation where it's rapid, but there's like loads and loads of rich content, which seems to be managed really well. So yeah, I thought I'd call that out quickly. So on to the next question. So you have a native theme, which presumably is designed to speed up deployment and, get people operating on front commerce faster. Can you just summarize what's included within that in terms of the core templates, and then also things like the native checkout, filtering, all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, sure. Indeed, the main goal of front commerce, and this is our value proposition to developers and to merchants, is that we do provide all the native features available on each platform. So if you choose, for instance, Adobe Commerce B2B because you want to run your B2B business with that, and you want, I don't know, Algolia because you really want to provide a personalized search with good insights and good suggestions to your customers, then in Front Commerce you will have that by default. And basically, our theme reflects that. That means that in our theme, you will have, of course, a PLP, PDP, cart page, wish lists, B2B company management, for instance, a full checkout with the best way to integrate each payment method. So, for instance, if you have some wallet payments, you will be able to have that when you use our ADN connector. All those features for each platform. Really, we do that by default. So that means that when you start your Front Commerce project, you will customize what's existing based on exactly the experience that you want to build end to end with. So if you want to have a fully different user journey, you will be able to override every pages, but still reuse internal components. So we do have UI components that are that could be reused almost everywhere, but we do have all those base templates, which is a standard commerce application that you can see almost everywhere. And then by customizing what really makes sense for your projects and adding those extra features that is specific to the way this merchant sells to his customer, then that's how we aim at accelerating projects, because you will only focus on what's needed and you won't have to redevelop the password forgotten process, for instance, and still benefit from everything that you have in your platform. Because most of the time, existing solutions only cover the main features or the common features of each platform. And if you want to use a very specific configuration that BigCommerce has and not Adobe, for instance, then you will have to do it yourself. And it's the agency that will have to maintain it over time. And it also additional costs for the merchants. So that's why we really take care of all these basic features for integrators.
And I think a question that I always come up against when businesses who aren't using like headless setups and aren't used to this approach is what internal resource study, what development skills do we need rather than from a provider or an agent? I'd love to hear, Pierre, like, can you talk us through? My understanding is you won't need a full stack developer because you're handling all of the backend API and integration work with all the third parties. So what are your recommendations? What resources should an e-commerce business have in-house to make working with Front Commerce the most positive and productive experience?
Yeah. Again, here, it really depends on the context of existing teams for the merchant or agencies, and also the solutions that you choose. Because, for instance, if you're using BigCommerce or Adobe with a custom development, you will, like in BigCommerce, you will not be able to add additional APIs, while in Adobe, you will have to do that. So depending on that, the teams sometimes will have backend developers that could remain at exposing APIs. But then you need to build the team that work on the front end of your headless. And for that, as I mentioned, we really try to be JavaScript focused because we want to address front end developers. So mostly teams building Front Commerce projects will be front end developers. So for that, we are based on React. So obviously it's a must-have to know React and how to build JavaScript front-end component based. We use plain CSS with Sass for the styling. So basically, all the web developer usual stack is needed and will allow to create and to customize this front-end theme. But then there is the other part that I mentioned earlier about how to access the data no matter where they come and from different systems. So for that, we have a single backend for front end, which uses GraphQL and Node.js. Again, it's JavaScript. So what we've seen is that for querying those data and tweaking them, front-end developers are skilled enough to do that. And there is a small, maybe, entry cost of discovering GraphQL, for instance, if you don't know that. But it's quite easy to learn. However, if you really want to mix and match data into this GraphQL schema, then this is where you have more of a backend mindset to have, because here we're dealing with fetching data from APIs with authentication, session, caching, and things like that. But you will never have to create a database. So front-end developers, what we saw from experience is that the team to run a project built with FrontCommerce can be composed of front-end developers that knows how to deal with API and to do this calls. But sometimes you may need some backend developers for the initial builds, and they will be mostly focused on the GraphQL part. And that's where also you can have an agency or a team specialized into these kind of projects to help you deliver faster if it's new for your business. And that's a good accelerator. And then you can maintain it on track over time.
And do you have any clients where they don't have any in-house development at all, and it's all done by the agency then? So they're letting the agency maintain front?
Yeah, we do have very different kind of contexts. So for instance, we do have teams. You mentioned the Vialet, but they had front-end developers in-house, and they have an agency that handles the Magento backend. And in between, sometimes they help with this GraphQL part. But initially, they made most of that, and now they're mostly autonomous. But there are other teams that only have agencies that can also provide more work regarding UX or UI development also, and that can also provide some guidance regarding composable commerce. And at some point, you also need, like merchants needs also to be helped and to have advices regarding where to put each information. Like, do I have this in my BigCommerce application, or should I use it in Contentful, or should I use Algolia to save everything and fetch everything from Algolia, for instance? So it really depends on the context, and having a team and that has this full view can really help. So it really depends again on the projects and the timeline also, because there is the initial build and the run after that. Yeah.
Christian, you mentioned it earlier about progressive migration, and it's something that I see more and more important in the phasing of projects where people have legacy stacks which are going to take time to unplug, or they might have a dependency on the e-commerce platform with another project like an ERP, and therefore they can't do everything at once, but they have a business limitation in terms of speed to market or content management tooling, and the business wants to accelerate that part of the project. So can you talk people through about, I guess for those of you who haven't come across it before, what progressive migration means, but also how you're seeing people adopt this approach when working with front?
Yeah, to put it briefly, in the old days, when you had an e-commerce stack, you built your front end either in custom, maybe with a template, but our customers generally went for custom front ends. You build it, works well, and then throughout the years, you're going to add custom developments because you're add features, you're going to do evolution on your e-com stack, and you're going to accumulate technical debt. This technical debt, after 5-7 years maybe, is totally going to block your business and marketing teams, because when you're going to want to do something new in terms of customer experience or UX, most generally, your dev teams will say, well, this is actually too complicated. We don't really want to touch what's in there because we don't really know what the impact is actually going to be if we touch this. But we can do it maybe in 3 months, and it will take maybe 10 days to do it. And that is kind of an issue with time to market requested right now and all the evolution and change we've had on the past years in terms of customer expectation. So this is the limitation of legacy system when confronted to business and marketing issues. And this is the old way of doing it. You had your e-com stack. So what did you do? Well, after 5-7 years, well, you changed everything and you put in a new modern stack, maybe built a new custom front end. There's a new era now, which is actually what we call progressive migration, meaning you can now go for a change in your e-com stack bit by bit, parts by parts, in order to mitigate risk, in order to have kind of an agile approach in the change of your e-com stack. So what we're seeing right now is legacy customers that are lacking flexibility that will say, okay, well, first step is actually to chop the head. So take off the website, the e-com website, and put in a solution that is really dedicated to web performance and time to market. When we say web performance, we mean obviously, well, speed, but also traffic, bounce rate, conversion rate, everything that is actually linked to customer experience and business KPIs. So first step is to change the front. You put in a new front end that is agnostic, that has an API layer, and that will allow to connect best of breed solutions. So first step, you change the front end. This will probably take between 3 to 5 months with a solution such as ours. Once you've done that, and what we see with the customers that take that path is they will generally change the search solution after having changed the front and having a new customer experience in terms of hyper-personalization. So then they'll change the search engine. We have great traction right now on Algolia, for example. And the second step will probably be to change the CMS and bring in a best-of-breed CMS, maybe contentful. And this is how you go step by step on micro projects, on dedicated functional parameters. And this is how you actually secure your migration to a new modern stack. Because if we rewind on the first step, which was chopping the head and putting a best-of-breed front end, that takes 3 to 5 months, will impact positively your business. We mentioned LeLaidier. We have 3 KPIs for LeLaidier. We have the traffic that increased by 25%, and the conversion rate that doubled in 16 weeks. That was the timeline of the project of changing the front end, 16 weeks. And much better scores on a tool from Google, which is Lighthouse, that will analyze the web performance of your website in terms of speed. So yeah, that's what we're seeing right now. And obviously it's less stress, less risk, less workforce, and having an impact very quickly on your business instead of waiting 18 to 24 months and investing a lot of money to change your whole e-com stack. So the cool part about it is that once you've changed your front, maybe put in a best-of-breed search, CMS, as I mentioned, you can actually change your backend if you want to, but you don't have to. And we have both cases with our customers. We have ones that keep their legacy backend, and others that will go for really a 100% e-com headless stack with solutions on the backend that are a bit more modern. Make it BigCommerce, commerce tools, maybe Shopify, these kind of solutions.
That makes sense. I think James and I are talking a little bit in the background. I think I've definitely seen this trend, but I think where I've mostly seen it is businesses with big teams, lots of stakeholders want to achieve a number of things, and then quite often they might address a redesign with a goal of achieving some of their KPIs, completely overhaul the front end, maybe move to a headless front end stack, and then they'll come back to the back end because that's a bit more political, more change, all of the integrations, everything else.
Yeah, especially when ERPs are involved and the codependency between like the ERP and downstream systems like WMS with the e-commerce, and unpicking that for phase one launch, and you suddenly see the operational people just cry at the thought of, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it also is a change in terms of culture inside companies. So having this progressive migration can also help going into and adopting this new culture. And sometimes, like when you have omni-channel experiences, you need also to have a buy-in from the physical store owners, for instance. And there is all of that you need to change it. And technical solution isn't the only thing to have in mind. We are technical people, so we are talking about that. But then there are a lot of other changes and politics too, indeed, that might come into play here.
Yeah, exactly. And what I find interesting about this approach is I've had conversations with clients where I said, you're going to spend a bit more doing it this way, but you come back to your points about de-risking. You've got a timeline where you need to be live because the business can't execute against its go-to-market plans. You won't hit that if you wrap in all of the entire project deliverables into that phase in. You just won't get there. So you accept that actually you're paying for the business efficiency with some extra spend to do that front end bit first. You'll have to come back, and then when you move your e-commerce back end, you've got to then do that integration piece. But that's fine. You've got more of the structure set up, and the business are already self-serving on the new. We were talking about this in the background, content management. I see all the time. People can't do stuff because things are hard coded or they've got the wrong tool in, and therefore they have to wait and use developer time. So actually you think, well, if we can unpick that, our return on investment or our business case is that spend that we won't have to make over the next 12 months will cover the extra cost of doing that piece now.
Yep, absolutely. So my next question, so something that James mentioned and something that's cited on your website is, and I think you've touched on it as well, is you've got a major project on with Remix at the moment, and the goal is to improve website lighthouse scores and core web vitals. Can you just talk us through that project and what the kind of benefit is to your customers?
Yeah, so this project is basically replacing our core, some core features that we've developed over time with Remix. So Remix is a JavaScript framework that allows to basically take care of everything that we call the middle stack of an application. So basically the client and server communication. So whenever users come on the website, Remix will take care of serving HTML to them. And then when the user will continue to navigate on the client, it will take care of updating the React application based on data fetch from JSON API for the backend. Okay, so this is something that when we started FrontCommerce 9 years ago now, we're getting old, such frameworks didn't exist. So now there is Next.js, which is quite well known also in the React and the JavaScript ecosystem, and Remix. So those are the main frameworks out there, and they now know how to do server-side rendering, routing, tooling also to build application for production in an optimized way, and providing a good developer experience. So by replacing our own implementation of that with this framework, that will allow us to and for our customers to focus on our value proposal, being developing features and ensuring that all of that is performant by default and accessible by default. So why does it improve performance? over time, we've tried to, of course, improve and keep a good performance. But we're building a front-end single-page application that allows to provide a good user experience and user journey. But it has the drawback of having a big JavaScript payload. And in Core Web Vitals, this is now our main bottleneck, because JavaScript needs to be parsed by the browser, and I won't go much in depth, but even though we do server-side rendering, we have optimized our bundle size and stuff. Now we are limited by core component into this JavaScript bundle. So what we're doing with this rewrite, this new version using Remix, is that the communication to get data from the unified GraphQL schema will now happen on the server. This is the main difference. Instead of doing it from the front end that will query the GraphQL schema, we're querying the native Remix APIs, and on the server, we're doing these GraphQL queries. It's a bit technical, so I won't go much in depth, but basically that allows us to remove a full dependency, which is a GraphQL client from the JavaScript that we ship to the user. And that means that it reduces our bundle size, which increase and improves the Core Web Vitals. Also, there are things that the Remix team made, I think, better than what we did in our core. So there are a lot of optimization because we're using, again, best of breed tools for each step. We have a lot of other improvements. I won't detail all of them now unless you want to discuss it, but I could discuss it for hours. But another fundamental changes from this new version is that Remix is embracing web standards. So standards web API that right now are supported by most of the existing browsers. And they're providing some APIs on top of that that want to promote progressive enhancements. And that means that for editors like us, we don't have also to use several additional dependencies, and we can just use the web as it was planned to do, which again reduces the amount of JavaScript that we ship to the browser. And for the other ones, we use the Remix primitives for that. So using the web also is a really nice trend that everybody is doing, because when we started FrontCommerce 9 years ago, browser didn't have such rich APIs also. So that's also another part of this new Remix version that allows to have better performance.
Right. And next question. So one thing I really like when working with kind of tech partners or vendors is when they have like a really strong service layer or kind of governance layer, so that you could, one, get the most out of the product, and also just prevent, I guess, technical issues or poor implementation, etc. And I always use Akuva as a really good example of this. And they're a Magento hosting company, but they essentially kind of govern deployments and, all of the code that's being written, etc. And it sounds like you have a very similar thing. Can you explain how you do this and then how your team operates?
Yeah, of course. As I mentioned, FrontCommerce is only aimed at enabling teams to build those headless commerce projects. So we really see us as the technical part of a commerce project. But on top of that, there are agencies or developers that will work to develop features that the merchant needs based on what they know from their users. So everyone here has its responsibilities, and our is to help with the technical aspects, like you mentioned. So we try to do that with an initial training for the developers and the teams to show all the ways they can extend FrontCommerce to achieve whatever they want. Then we provide support also with a dedicated Slack channel when you build the project, and we can do some meetings and screen sharing to really ensure that, again, they spend time on their specific features and not on debugging things in JavaScript or in FrontCommerce. So really that happens all like that during the project. But of course, every project have deadlines. Merchants have budgets, so you need to prioritize features, bugs, or deadlines also. So what we really want to do is, before the project goes live, the initial build of that project, is that we run an audit on the whole website to ensure that first, the project will don't have any issues regarding performance, and it will be able to handle all the traffic that the merchants expect, because that's the main, of course, the main goal of any project. Because if it's beautiful, if it has all the features, but you can't have hundreds customer on Black Friday or thousands customers at that time, then it doesn't mean anything. So this is the first point. And then we are also starting to look into how customization and extensions have been made into the project to ensure that it's maintainable over time and on the long run. Because as we mentioned, investing in a new front end means that then you can start additional projects for the rest of your stack. And what we want is that a front commerce project will outlast your different backends. So then from this initial build, you will do some iterations over time with new features, improvement. And basically this audit is exactly that. We provide a list of the most priority and most important points that needs to be really tackled before going live. And then all the other nice to have things that can be then scheduled during iterations after the initial go live. And our goal here is also with our cloud offering to provide automated tools to kind of do that regularly, because of course we want to prone iterative development. So an initial audit is only valid for a few months, and we need to do that ideally every year or every few months to ensure that the project is best and delivers the best quality on there.
Christian, I've got a question for you on the commercial side. We talked about this as well. Quite interesting that there's so many changes going on in the front end landscape for e-commerce. And I know you're working with Commerce Tools, but Commerce Tools are fantastic to have like a version of a front end for I guess the mid market. I'd love to know why does Front Commerce see an opportunity in the Commerce Tools ecosystem?
Sure. I think it's the fact of having a really best of breed software editor on the front end aspect, with modern and innovative backends or composable backend stacks that makes sense. We have Commerce Tools that has bought a solution dedicated for front end. Nevertheless, from what I know, this solution today is only compatible with Commerce Tools. So we're not really on an agnostic solution. We have the same kind of model with Salesforce that launched their storefront composable solution. We have maybe PWA Studio that has been built by for Magento, Adobe. So kind of all these legacy actors, apart from Commerce Tools, have their own solution they're putting up for the front end. We can say quite objectively that this is not really a headless approach when you have a front that is not agnostic from the back, and maybe not allowing you to go for this progressive migration, because if you change for the front end of a specific provider on the back, it might be complicated to change for another provider on your back. So you're kind of going to be tangled a bit. Oh, and we like to believe that we have probably the most mature solution out there when it comes to agnosticity and the goals we're aiming for with our solution, meaning to have the best possible front-end experience and flexibility provided to the merchant with whom we work. And actually, this is kind of also in our model, our licensing model. We're really a best-of-breed provider for front-end solutions. So our aim is with performance. And we actually have three kind of customers in our vision. We have developers for whom we have to allow them to gain time and have a smile when they're actually working on our solution. We have the final customer that is online and has to have no friction, seamless experience, and be surprised actually with the capabilities that can be offered by this technology when building hyper-personalized journey. And we finally have, obviously, the merchant that has business goals and business aims for this. So everything we do is actually servicing these three kind of customers. For example, in our model, our economic model, everything that serves these customers is included in our license. So we will have a hosted solution. It's auto-scaled. We can bring in CDN if necessary. All these are architecture, IT aspects that are at the service of web performance. But we will also ensure that when there is upgrades from the back end, these upgrades will be done on our solution, allowing the developers of our customers' agencies not to have to discover this and rebuild stuff because the upgrades are ensured by frontrunners. And this also allows us to guarantee and to engage and to be accountable for the result of the perception you have when going through the front end of our customers. And so it links with the audit we do once we did the build. And it links also with the fact that we weren't asked the agencies with whom we work with to actually develop anything when there's upgrades of the back-end solution they're using.
Great. And then I guess last question from me. So Pierre, I guess what else do you have coming over the next 6 to 12 months? Like, do you plan to kind of build out the ecosystem around front commerce? You know, are there more kind of things you're building into the service layer, more things you're building into the product? What else do you have coming?
Yeah, of course, a lot of things. We're also a startup, so we're adapting fast also to our ecosystem. Right now, as I mentioned, we're this is really this year major goal for us is this remixed version that will be focused on web perf and developer experience. So we are really here trying to improve by changing this low-level stack, by improve the web performance for our merchants and the developer experience for people working with front commerce on a daily basis. So our goal here is to ensure not just that we ship this version, because we've already made most of the work here, but we want also to provide a good migration experience to our customers, because that's also maybe a difference between like tools that are front-end that are now embedded into existing back-end solutions, is that we do have plans for long-term future. It's not just front commerce, it's not just a starter that you start with and then you have to maintain over time. We do provide migration for all of that. So our first customers that went live in 2018 will be able to migrate to this new remixed version and benefit from those web performance things. So we have a lot of tools, code modes, documentation, and things to do here. After that, and in the meantime, we are also working on nice features for improving the contribution experience in a composable commerce approach. Because when every data is stored on different services, when you contribute content, we were talking about a culture shift here, you need to kind of have a picture of where the information that you see on a page is managed and who is responsible for this data. So we do have nice features that allows to streamline this process of contributing new content and customizing the customer experience on that. Also, as we mentioned, we will have a new connector that not yet fully decided yet, because we're adapting to also our market and what merchants will want. So it will really depend on the next months and the projects that and the merchants that will come to us. But this is definitely planned. And also in the process of improving performance for the merchants, we want, with our FrontCommerce cloud platform that basically allows you to operate FrontCommerce projects in production, we want to support this performance culture. So for that, we will create new tools for monitoring a website, this commerce website, when it's live, by knowing which are the services which are slow, where you have performance issues. And also we want to provide insights about what to tackle next to really improve the end user experience, to ensure that teams can focus on what really matters. And with a given, with restricted budgets or time frames, they could step by step improve continuously their front end. And finally, this is also something that we're really looking into. As you saw, AI came a few months ago and really is disrupting our ecosystem. So we're really paying attention to that. And for now, we're aware about AI disrupting the developer experience when we author software and we build software with platform like us. There used to be a lot of no-code applications, but right now with ChatGPT and all those new AI assistants coming into the game in your IDE, it's way more easier to just write code and generate it and adapt and iterate from that. So we're also going to embrace this change. And right now we're exploring that, and we'll definitely have some things in the next 6 to 12 months around that for now. Yeah. Maybe also about just one thing that's not yet decided, but this is really to show the vision of a front-end solution like us, is that for now we're providing a mobile friendly and performance front-end for users to purchase online, okay? But going headless means that if tomorrow users check out differently and they consume online in a different manner with a different user experience, FrontCommerce will allow to bring merchants there. So if tomorrow, I don't know, people will only place order from a ChatGPT plugin, then FrontCommerce will provide the APIs, allow you to turn your storefront into a ChatGPT plugin or application. This is also the kind of things that we're going to explore. But right now, the market, we're waiting a bit about the market to stabilize with that. But we're definitely doing a lot of work on that.
Yeah, me and Paul don't exist. We are ChatGPT generated bots, so we're not real humans. I'm fascinated by the ChatGPT thing at the moment. There's definitely an evangelical obsessive element of the industry that are trying to push it as the solution to everything, but everyone has to look at where it might go, don't they? I mean, that's the reality. We've got to understand what the long-term implications will be. But look, Pierre, Christian, thanks so much for joining us. Really enjoyed it. We got a lot of information. It was good to hear you talking about merits of progressive migration. I think it's an approach we're going to see more and more mid-market business. I know in enterprise that this approach with bigger project management teams has been there for a while, but I think more and more SMEs are going to actually understand the benefits of taking a more phased approach. But and also thanks everyone for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. Do reach out to Christian or Pierre if you've got more questions, or if you want to talk to them in more depth around how FrontCommerce could work in a particular project. And keep an ear out for our next episode. We drop one every Tuesday. So thanks everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. For more information on this topic, head over to replatform.fm for our audio podcasts. To discuss a project, or if you'd like to chat about any of the topics covered in this episode in more detail, please reach out to myself, James Gerd, or my co-host Paul Rogers via LinkedIn and Twitter. Thanks again for listening, and keep your ears peeled for the next episode.